Two people can be in the exact same conversation and leave having heard two completely different things. Not because one of them wasn't listening, but because they were both listening through completely different filters. And neither one knew it. Hi, I'm Mike Dauphinee. I'm a mental performance coach, and we are in week 1 of what we call our compass navigation framework. This is the framework we teach all of our mental performance clients to process through. In a world that's kind of run off the maps, like we like to say, you need your own compass. And so we believe in 4 points of a compass, one of which is vision, the other is strengths, facing your fears, taking action. And so our content week to week follows these 4 points again and again. And this week we're going to talk about strengths, but specifically CliftonStrengths and knowing your strengths in general. It's actually understanding CliftonStrengths as a communication tool, not just a self-awareness tool. By the end of this conversation, I want you to be able to name the filter that your dominant CliftonStrengths themes have put on almost every conversation that you're a part of. So the first topic is this. So the first idea I want you to catch is, what are your themes actually doing in every conversation? See, your CliftonStrengths themes are a filter not only for what you say, but also what you listen for. They determine what feels urgent to you, what feels relevant, what things you tune out. And so I like to think of like a filter over our ears that lets certain things in, certain things out. So when you're communicating, there's a filter on your mouth, your ears, and your brain. And so we'll talk another time about that filter on decision-making and even a filter on expression and how you might express best. But I want to start this week with the filter on what you hear. Now, everything may be coming to you. You may be getting the whole story, the whole piece of what's there, but what's the whole message of what everybody's saying to you. But imagine if there's a filter on your ears. If you know that not everything's getting in, one, you can actually be a little more open-handed. You should assume that there's things happening that you're not hearing. So this first idea is, one, do you even realize there is a filter? If you know information is getting filtered to you, you may have a different reaction. I don't know about you, but many times when I'm leading teams, there are times when I really want my team to filter out things to me and only give me the most relevant. But then there's times when I wonder, am I actually getting all the information? Man, I want it unfiltered, we'll say. What we don't realize is we actually have a filter that we often don't choose and we don't interrogate unless we dive into it. I think a couple of weeks ago, I talked to you about our beliefs and how our Dr. Max Maltzby, when it comes to our fears and the beliefs, he talked about these beliefs that are automatic filters that we don't run, that we don't think about. CliftonStrengths are a filter on what you hear. So when I'm presenting to people, I will often look at the CliftonStrengths themes to try to get a better understanding of, I know I want to say to them in a CliftonStrengths workshop or presentation or a keynote, but based on their themes, what might they listen for? And so Gallup will often say that our CliftonStrengths themes are thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Okay, these are just simply patterns. So just so you know, when I have command, I'm listening for the direction. Analytical is often listening for evidence. Communication listens for narrative. When it comes to intellection, they're listening for depth and possibility. It's not flaws. There's nothing wrong with these filters, but do we know they exist? So real quick, if you know your CliftonStrengths top 5 right now, what are your 2 themes? What's each one listening for? Write it down, put it in a note. Ask yourself, do these themes run all the time? You may find that your CliftonStrengths communication filters use certain ones at different places. I like to believe that our dominant 3 are kind of always running. So for me, communication, command, and activator are constantly the filters in my own brain. I'm always going, what's the narrative? Then my communication theme is going, what's the story? When people start to talk and it doesn't go anywhere, I'm like, wait, where's it going? Right now, Steven Spielberg has this new movie Disclosure coming out. I saw Project Hail Mary last night and all the new trailers for the summer, right? Odyssey is running. I kind of know that. It's the Odyssey, obviously, you know, but it's like the trailer ends with his wife saying to him, promise you'll come back to me. And he's like, what if I can't? That's the whole story, right? Here's the characters. The arc is, can he come back to her even though she wants him to? Disclosure Day by Steven Spielberg. I'm watching this trailer. I have watched this thing endlessly. And I love Steven Spielberg. I'm excited he's going back to talk about, you know, sci-fi again, kind of going back this whole narrative in a way he hasn't done since probably War of the Worlds. But I'm watching the trailer and I'm going, what's he trying to say? Like, who am I rooting for? Because Colin Firth seems to be the bad guy, but then later on he's in clips where he's not. There's some stuff that people understand. They're going to disclose something, but who and why? Like, is that bad? My brain goes, I don't understand the characters. I don't understand the arc. So for me, I'm really confused. I don't know who to root for. I don't know who the characters in the story are. That's because my communication theme. I don't know how to feel about it. For me, communication activator, or actually communication command, are dominant. the command theme in me. Who's the leader? Who's the good guy? What's the mission? And so ultimately, I like stories. I like to understand who's in charge or what's the impact? What's the direction? Activator, are they going to do something with it? Are they going to dive in and take action? Stories that are just self-referential or about deep feelings don't resonate with me as much. So for me, my themes, I'm always listening for what's the narrative, who's leading, what's happening next. Just so you know, that filter is running. It can cause problems because sometimes the story isn't clear yet, or I will get ahead of the story. I'll start to assume and I'll fill in the blanks. That's a whole nother issue. But I need to understand my strengths, create a filter. So guess what? As long as somebody else wants a story, I'm a great communicator. But when it comes to listening specifically, it's a filter on what I listen for, what gets me most excited. If you want to pitch me content, man, give me a story. Give me somebody who had something to overcome and tell me how they did it. Those 3 beats for communication command activator, it's everything. But here's the deal. It shows up in places even when you don't mean it to. Years ago, when I was first getting started, I just quit Hewlett Packard. I spent 6 years working for HP, and I decided to partner up with a guy who was teaching strengths, and he was trying to build a business, and I decided I wanted to come alongside him. We were doing workshops all over the place, and I'd started putting exercises together, and we were trying to figure out how to get business beyond nonprofits. And it was just kind of a slog, and we're making it up. I don't have a business degree, and this is like literally 21, 22 years ago. One day, as we're driving to a job in Rochester, Minnesota, in the car, he's like, man, on my morning run this morning, I saw this great brick building on the corner of whatever. That would make gorgeous office space someday. I think they've got hardwood floors, and he's describing all this. I lost my crap. I got so frustrated. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you're being ridiculous, Mike. What's the reaction? The issue was, I said, you're planning out office space and we don't even have business yet. He's like, I don't mean next year. I'm just saying, wouldn't that make a great office space? He has connectedness and intellection. For him, he sees a thing, connectedness, and then he draws out possibilities and dives deep into it. You know, this building and this place would be this room. He's analyzing and thinking about it. I have communication command. So my relationship with him, most of the time, without even realizing it, is my job is to listen to whatever he's dreaming up. I will take ownership and then take action. So he's talking about ideas. I'm hearing to-do lists on an already long to-do list. We were both in the same conversation, neither one listening. Does that ever happen to you? I like to say, have you ever been in a meeting, heard the same information and come to opposite conclusions? I don't know about you, but my first thought is one of us is wrong and it's not me. One of us wasn't listening. The problem is you're both listening. You're both just listening through your filter. And so here's the thing I want you to catch. Each one of the 4 CliftonStrengths domains have a filter attached, and you should at least be aware of when you want that filter and when you don't, or when you should also make allowance for the fact that you're filtering. 4 domains. First domain, strategic thinking. Second one, influencing. Third one, relating. Fourth, executing. Strategic thinking theme domain. The CliftonStrengths domain here, here's what I want you to catch. This is a pattern we need to recognize of deep dive. So for you, your brain is likely looking and processing internally. Just so you know, you're listening for how well thought out. What are the core ideas? What are the problems? What is the analysis? What's the source of the information? Where'd it come from? In fact, I like to say each thinking theme has a filter it's listening for. Intellection is listening for what's the core idea. Analytical listening for what's the source. Ideation, what's the most creative. Strategic, what's the problem that's the roadblock. Even I would say connectedness is almost a thinking theme over there. Learner is thinking for what information will let me take action. Those kind of thinking themes are filters that if I don't tap those things, you may not even listen. In fact, when I'm teaching CliftonStrengths, if I see lots of analytical or intellection in the room, I will tell stories of, and quote, stats about CliftonStrengths validity. And if I don't give the source of the stats, analytical thinks I'm full of crap. I do not have analytical anywhere in my top 15. I don't care about the sources of data. I remembered it in the book and the research when I created the talk. So for me, it doesn't matter. I believe it and I feel it to be true. But when I'm communicating to get past the filter, I will often make sure to add in citations because you want to be able to get past that filter. If you find yourself with analytical, for example, instantly shutting people's ideas down, ask yourself, am I shutting down the idea because I don't believe in the idea, or am I too tired? I don't want to listen to it. Or am I waiting for? So maybe I should ask them for the source instead of just dismissing the idea. You could do that. But the first big thing is, are you aware of the filter? Strategic thinking, you're filtering in some ways based on the idea, the concept, the information. And if it's not properly sourced, if it's not properly connected for you, you might dismiss it. Influencing. These are themes: communication, woo, activator, competition, maximizer. These are themes that are about influence and maximizing. So future potential, direction, possibility. And so it's about creating change. And so communication for influencing themes, they're often listening for what is the possibility? What is the vision? What is the potential? And so fixing, debriefing, looking at doing postmortems, these things instantly get filtered out. You're like, oh my gosh, what's the point? Now, all those things have points. But if your only focus is forward, 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 or mission and change and key, maintenance, refinement, efficiency, you might overlook those. You might not participate well. You might miss things that could truly take you from simply marginal to exceptional. Know that your domain, if you're heavily in influencing themes, that might be a filter you need to consider. Am I missing things because I'm filtering it out? Relational, relator. It's about authenticity, empathy, people's feelings, positivity, having positive impact, harmony, cohesion, and people working together, connectedness, the unseen connections between things. Relational theme domain, you are filtering for, are people being considered? So you could have a strategic CEO who is strategic futuristic ideation going, this is what the future looks like. But if you're not actually talking about how will the human beings be on the company, in the company and the client be impacted, you may lose them. So if you have visionary CEOs, I often have to say, translate your strategic tech vision into the human beings first of, you know what? We want to be great coaches and consultants and give more real time to people by adding these tools, more human interaction, less having to write reports. By providing more data, you can actually help them in the emotional moments to navigate more dangerous situations. Whatever it is, even though you with Intellection, futuristic, let's say, are very excited about tech and direction, the people need to hear, and they're going to filter out, are you thinking about the customer? Are you thinking about the team? Totally different conversation. So in that moment for you, are you simply dismissing an idea simply because you didn't hear people first? Are you doing the work to ask the question to say, you know what? Hey, where's the people in this? I hear the vision, not saying they aren't there. Where are they? Because I want to know. Or are you simply not listening because you didn't hear them say people first? And the last one is executing. People with executing themes are listening for how much work will this take? Whose job is it anyway? How do I get this done? And so the good news is you're naturally good at listening to an idea and going, here's the timeline. But the problem may be you are so busy that you forget that this should fit in. Actually, let me put it this way. When it comes to the timelines, you may think, do they already know how busy I am? So I come with a great idea on a great project that's going to change our future. And you're going, I have this, and this to do. When am I going to have time to do that? And you may be filtering out what they're saying already because the achiever responsibility in you is like, I can't add one more thing to my list. The arrangers are going, how am I going to juggle even more? So if I'm leading and I want you to get on board and I want to get past that communication filter with executing themes, here's what I need to do. Given the amount of work we're doing in Q1, I think we can go here by starting with this. But I started with the magic phrase. You want to get past the communication filter with executing themes? Given the work we're doing, because my executing themes brains are listening for, do they know how much work am I doing? Where does this idea fit into that mix? And so that's where we start. So here's the last piece of it I want you to take away. One, do you know what your core filter is? Know your filter. Name it explicitly. Of these 4 domains, usually 2 are going to be dominant. So right now, somewhere, what is your filter? What are the 2? Pull up your CliftonStrengths themes. Put them into Claude or even in Gemini. Say, hey, if these are my dominant themes, what might my communications filter be? What might I not be hearing from my team? You can literally ask a chatbot that, and you'll get a really good answer. Before high stakes conversations, think to yourself, if you're the person listening and you've asked people to present to you, hey, what are my blind spots in my filter? If you look at the 4, you're like, okay, I know it's these 2 domains. I should probably ask more questions in the other 2 because you want to make sure you're rounding it out. You want to kind of have that kind of posture of what am I listening for? And the last one, create a shared vocabulary. Part of using CliftonStrengths on a team and in people that you're partnering with in your life is the ability to say, you know what? My strategic filter is analytical achiever. So listen, babe, when you tell me the story about your hard day, I'm just listening going, What exactly do you want me to do about that? Achiever, strategic, by the way, this is the classic conversation. If you have achiever and strategic, and you're married to or partnered with somebody with communication, empathy, positivity, and they're like, I want to tell you about my day, communication just wants to tell you the story. Strategic achievers listening for what's the action they want me to take on the story of their horrible lunch they had with all their friends. And you'll say, well, I think you should do this. And the person with communication will say to you, I just wanted you to listen. You've got to actually understand what is it the other person is filtering for. Know your filter, okay? Set a plan before high stakes conversations for knowing, okay, my default is this. How do I fill my blind spots? Third, create a shared language. Tell people what your filters are so they can lead with that information. Because a lot of times we don't need different information. We just need you to lead with the information that will get past the filter. So here's the thing. Your themes filter what you listen for. They filter collisions. Let me reset. Here we go, Rick. Last one. All right, so here's the deal. Remember, your CliftonStrengths themes, they filter what you listen for. They filter and they can create some of the greatest collisions when it comes to, do it again. All right, so here's what we're saying. Your CliftonStrengths themes, they're your natural strength and what you can accomplish, but they're a filter on your ears, your mouth, and your brain. This week, I need you to catch. They're filtering what you're hearing. So what I need you to do is name your filter. What of the domains, what of your top 5 are the filter that seems to be the default for you? What are the strengths of that? What's the black holes of that? Before your next conversation, ask yourself, man, what am I listening for? Also, what might the person I'm presenting to, what they're listening for too? This week, we're talking all about strengths. Next week, we're going to talk about vision. Just so you know, what you're listening for can also show up in the vision you set for who you want to be in any given moment. If you want to work through things like this with other leaders who also know their CliftonStrengths top 5, the Fit Forum is the community where we do that. We created that about the last 2 months, and we're having really great conversations about CliftonStrengths, how they filter our ears, our mouth, our brain as we navigate our life. There's a link below. Join up today. Let's read this again, Rick. Here's the last cut. If you want to work through this and let's do this again. If you want to work through this with other leaders who know their top 5, the Fit Forum is the community where we do that. The link is below. Love to have you join us today.